saying that President Truman has no knowledge of any secret project by this government that would give substance to the existence of such objects. Ross also said that both the Air Force and the Navy deny that such objects exist.
Hey, I'm Chelsea, and I'm the battle cry of 1,000 angry Branch Davidians.
And hey, what's up? My name's Noelle, and I am the ghost of Bill Cooper.
And we have a podcast called Freaky Geeks,
where you can hear us scream about birds not being real.
And Stan Lee being the real-life inspiration for the little girl backwards crab walking down the stairs in The Exorcist.
Find us on all social media and listen to episodes anywhere podcasts are heard.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be
the owner of a comic book store.
Trust me, true believer. Well, Jagger and me, we had a running contest to see who had the most comic books in the world.
Whatever, my escape was comic books.
Net profit to me, negative $59.
I love the comics because of the brightness displayed by the fellows who drew them. They remain with me always. And when comic books first came into being, it drew me to them.
Tales from the Comic Shop.
Hello and welcome to Tales from the Comic Shop, the show that invites you to take a peek behind the counter. I am joined today by Eddie D'Angelini. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing good, everybody. Hello, I'm Eddie, the co-owner and co-manager of Heidi Ho Comics and the creator of the comic strip Collectors.
How's your week been going, Eddie?
Same as usual. Surviving in the age of COVID with the retail shop best we can. Had some fun this morning, though. I went to check out a garage sale that advertised comic books from the 1960s. And that was an interesting time. 3 of us showed up, and 3 of us were trying to get at it. And the seller wanted to sell the entire thing for all one price to one of us and was trying to make us all bid for it and let it go to the highest bidder.
Of course they were.
Yeah, which was kind of lame because if one of the sellers was telling me that they were selling them individually, so I was making a stack, and then the other one comes in and says, no, we're doing it all in one shot. Make an offer and I'll take the highest bidder. Ended up going for $4,000, which was way over what I was willing to pay because there was a lot of good older Silver Age stuff in there, but they were pretty chewed up and pretty low grade. And the most I would have paid if I had the chance, I probably would have paid like around $1,000, maybe $1,500 tops. But the guy that bought it owns a gaming shop, and I don't think he quite understood how to value comics based on condition. So good luck to him. I don't think he's going to make his money back. Yeah,
comics prices are going crazy. Venom number 3 shot up this week. I believe I saw a copy go for $1,200 or $1,300 and a 9.8. Yeah, I mean, for the first Null, it's only a year-old book. It's a pretty massively printed book, too. I don't fully understand it. One thing I was happy to see was Edge of Spider-Verse 2 also shot up this week. And I just happened to score a copy of an A cover 2 weeks ago for about $250.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, now it's up to, they're going for around 1,000 right now on eBay. So yeah. I'm pretty stoked on that. And then another thing that's crazy is I saw a Land variant of that book go for $6,000. It was signed by Stan Lee and Land. That that's one of my blue chip investment books that I have been saying is I think it's this generation's TMNT 2 or TMNT 1. Sorry.
Okay, I'll go with that joke because first off, comparing Venom number 3 to your Edge of Spider-Verse, I don't think they compare because
very different.
Yeah, because obviously, although they're both modern books, one's got enough age on it to say that it's going to last the test of time. Venom 3, not so much. I mean, how much are you going to be able to pay for that in a year, perhaps?
I really, really liked Silver Surfer Black. I've talked about that before on the show. I think it's one of my favorite Tait's books. But the reason that book resonates so much for me is because it's about death and loss and grief and experience. And it came out at a time when I was experiencing death and loss and grieving in my life. So I think maybe part of the reason it really resonates with me is because of that. But I mean, overall, Null has not been an impressive character to me. So I will be very interested to see if this goes the way of like Toxin and the other symbiotes, or if this is if he's like Carnage. I mean, who knows? And Cates is great.
knows?
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think Cates is a great person to invest in. I think his work will hold up and stand and last. He's a great writer. But yeah, that about does it for news this week, unless you have anything, Eddie.
Not really. Starting off the show appropriately with a little bit of comic collecting talk instead of comic shop talk. So, yeah, let's get into it, right?
So joining us today are the admin team from Comic Book Collecting Facebook group. It's one of the largest groups that I've ever encountered with over 160,000 members. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Lew Beitz.
Ryan Tait.
Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. So our mission statement on this show is there's a lot of misinformation about working behind the scenes in comics. I wanted to get you guys on here because I feel like you guys see it all. I mean, with 160,000 members, you guys have to regulate every opinion, every wrong and right, every despicable and wonderful thing in comics. I mean, you guys must have everything coming through almost on a daily basis, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. There's a big difference between an opinion and just being a dick. So you're absolutely allowed to have your opinion. Everybody can have your opinion, but you have to support it. If you come out and just say, hey, that's racist, it's like, why is that racist? Or why is that ignorant? Or why is that stupid? Like, that's what, like, we want people to have different opinions, but just back it up and don't put your emotions into it when somebody says, well, you're wrong because of this, this, and this. It's like, well, do it. Be a good person about it and don't resort to name calling. But of course, we all know how that goes down.
I've seen plenty of threads that start off with, I love insert name of character here. And then followed by the reply of, you suck. No, you suck. Shut up. No, you shut up. And it just goes on. I don't envy you guys that you have to police that on a daily basis.
Yeah, we really try and drive conversation. One of the little bugaboos is people will ask a legitimate question and they'll get a response, why don't you just Google it? Well, no, we don't tell people to Google it. This is a discussion group and we want to discuss. We want to hear what people have to say about topic A, B, C.
Yeah, let's have a back and forth.
Correct.
That actually raises a point that I was going to bring up is how often do you guys find yourself having to police a discussion, a thread where people are getting, a bit personal, a bit nasty, and it's delving into name calling as opposed to discussion?
Well, we've probably had a couple go by since we've been talking in the last 10 minutes. But seriously, it's not that bad. We work really hard as a team of admins to kind of drown out, mute out, and root out that type of individual that's just there to make trouble, if you will. Some of our members actually join to get a badge of honor. Believe it or not, there is a group that's out there that is ex-members of Comic Book Collecting, and they kind of wear getting tossed out as a badge. So we're kind of fighting that as well, but that's really minimal, I think, at this point. I think we've rooted out most of that element.
Well, the perfect way to fight that would be to join their group and get kicked out, right? And then brag about it in the comic collecting group.
That would be an interesting twist.
Well, so, that required me to actually care enough to do that.
Yeah.
So you guys have to deal with the trolls. how often does it go beyond trolling? Like, how often do you have to deal with something that like is like a legitimate like is going to give you PTSD for having to see it? Like, because I just saw a thing this week about Facebook moderators legitimately like the people who do the all of Facebook. They like they literally have PTSD after like 6 weeks and they can't sleep anymore because they see so much horrible.
I take it we can't talk of any examples, can we?
I don't think we want to.
The most egregious are definitely these spammers where it has literally nothing to do with comics. I'm like, this was a good idea. How? I don't get it, but bye. Block.
So the flip side of all that is one point that I definitely want to bring up is the sheer amount of positive that comes out of this group. There are a number of people that I've met through this group who I've eventually actually even met in person and have become good friends with. Joe is an example of that. I met him on that in that group, and that led to us doing this podcast. Our other co-host, Roger, who's also a comic shop owner, I believe I met him through the group as well. And I've actually met him in person several times and been to his shop in Utah. So other people like Anna Love, other people of prominence who ended up friending outside of the group and interacting with Facebook or other social media, outside of the group as well. So the group, I got to say, has led to a lot of positives for, I think, a lot of people, myself included. So for that, hey, I thank you guys.
Well, appreciate that.
I just wanted to throw, I don't want to forget to do this. Big shout out has to go out to Lynn Harrell, who founded this group, started this group about 7 years ago. And without him, this would not exist. And he had, through a series of unfortunate events, has stepped back. And so Ryan and Duane and myself and the rest of the admin group are just trying to carry forth what he put out there. We've tweaked things a little bit. As Ryan mentioned, we now approve the posts before they hit the page. We had, unfortunately, while Lynn was around, had a series of really bad spam. The subject matter I won't discuss, but it was really disgusting stuff that our members were threatening to leave if that continued. And that's why we started that type of a thing. But again, this group would not be this group without Lynn.
Well, our hats off to him. You actually made me think of a question that I definitely would like to ask each of you. How long have each of you been moderating the group, and how many hours a week do each of you normally put in supporting and moderating this group?
I was going to say we're close to about 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure.
And I've only been doing it for 2 years. Yeah, I mean, I was been part of the group for about 6 years, and then 2 years ago, I think Lew reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to be an admin?" I'm like, "Sure." I really had no aspiration really to be that, but I'm like, "All right, can't hurt." So that's kind of 2 years later, and a lot of arguments later, but comes with the territory.
So is there a time where you guys are just literally sitting around just going through a long list of posts to approve? Because I imagine that's just like gigantic list that you just have to go through one by one by one by one. I can imagine that could take several hours considering how big that group is.
I'd say the biggest issue is when we get a series of ones that we know they're going to start crap, where people are going to chime in and be negative, and we're like, should we approve this? Should we not? Because we know if we need to approve it, we're going to have to sit on it and watch it because somebody's going to start trouble. We just know because it happens every single time. Bring up Captain Marvel and people lose their minds. I just don't get it.
So beyond the obviously the crude or lewd stuff that everyone would just agree that we're not approving this, is there any other particular types of posts that automatically you guys say, oh no, we can't put this up?
Well, you mentioned Darkhawk. We really tried to put a hard break on that a couple of years back, and it really is pretty rare now that you see a Darkhawk post. I mean, if somebody hits a Darkhawk one, yeah, hey, I'm a member of the club now, yay. Those aren't too bad, but we did put a stop to people comparing Darkhawk to religious characters, and there were some other things that they were tying Darkhawk into, where that's the kind of thing we really try and bounce it back to comic book related. And we have very we have an outline of what comic book related is. If it wasn't in a comic book first, for example, if it was a movie first, then it's out of bounds unless they are actually talking about the comic book. And that's something that even we get a little bit confused on, or we have to discuss, because there are things like Transformers, where the comic book and the movie, or the comic book and the toy, came out right about the same time. So we have a group chat, and all of our admins are in that group chat. And we can put stuff out at any time and square away whether we want to throw it out there or not.
I think the reason why it works is because each admin has their own power. They do talk to the other admins to get what they think, but whatever each admin decides, that's the decision, and all the other admins support them. They have to stand by it, but we all get to run it slightly by our own style. So I think that's why it all works, because all of us have slightly different stances on each issue. And we not all don't agree, but we all respect it.
So another thing that I would bring up that I know that you guys also don't allow is stuff that is self-promoting. Someone wanting to go on and promote whatever they're selling or creating or whatever. Like, it's different, obviously, if someone's drawing something and they go, hey, check out my artwork. But if someone goes, hey, check this out, it's for sale. This is my comic book I did, or this is my commission that's for sale, whoever wants it. You guys just automatically shoot that down, correct? Yeah. I have to hang my head in shame here for a moment, because I think around the time when I first joined the group and when I first started writing and drawing my comic strip, I would try to share it in the group, which immediately just got shot down. And I realized, can't do that. Sorry, guys. But then every once in a while throughout the years, someone else would share it from my comic strips Facebook page into the group. And it was almost like this immediate, like, oh, no, it wasn't me, guys. It wasn't me, I swear, kind of thing. So, I get that whole idea of why you don't want people like shilling their stuff and promoting their stuff, because then it turns into nothing but that. And then it just drives everybody away. And then there's no discussion.
Well, and there's a fine line. There's a very fine line between amateur artist wanting to show off his work and somebody wanting to drive traffic to their website. And the division between there is so fine. It's like, we think you could be doing something, but you're actually going to do something else. And that's the ones we have to ponder.
And I get that. So, sorry, guys. I apologize.
No. How dare you?
So the reason I want to talk about Darkhawk is, like, that's had an actual effect on the industry, and that started in your group, and it's trickled out to almost every other comic collecting group. I know on the CGC fan page, and like that whole thing actually spiked that book. And I mean, you can see the monetary effect of something that started in your group on the industry. I mean, honestly, they tried to bring Darkhawk back about a year and a half ago, and they put him in that Infinity, whatever that Infinity was for 2018-19 books. And I think that was directly related to your book, or to your group. So my question is, do you guys see industry people, members are in the group actively like looking through it? Not so much participating, but like, is there that influence that the rest of the members don't see? Are they there? I mean, I assume they would have to be with that many members.
First of all the stupidest reasons to be somewhat famous.
But it does go to show the power of the group as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have artists in the group that work for DC and I believe Marvel. I believe we have somebody in the group that works for CGC. We have some other people that are definitely involved in the industry. So yes, to answer your question, yes, they do see it.
Every facet of the industry, there's at least one professional in the group, whether or not they're actively seeing it.
Well, and it would be stupid for them not to be involved in the group, at least just to watch, because even if they are not participating in the group and trying to take advantage of it, they could at least be watching and looking for trends directly from their consumers by following such a large group. So I could actually, I would definitely see why there would be professionals that would be in this group and be monitoring it.
And I've wondered if there are burner accounts, if you want to call it that, people that don't want their names being known as being part of the group, but that are part of the group that just sit back and read and get a pulse on the industry. Because I think that our members, for the most part, do have a pretty good pulse on the industry, and they do drive what can be successful. You talk about, what was it? Is it Venom 3? Is that the one you were talking about earlier?
Yes, yeah. Venom 3 showed up this week.
Yeah, we had a guy that posted that somebody offered him an ASM 300 for that Venom 3. And that got a lot of attention. And that, I can see that driving trades for books. That took me by surprise. But it's out there, and the guy swore that somebody offered him an ASM 300 for his Venom 3.
But that very well could have an influence on others regarding the value of any book like that. Definitely.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Well, the thing, okay, and I love the whole thing about Null becoming very, very big recently, but they did build him up over the course of like a year at least. So there has been a lot of buildup. So he's not your usual modern day flash in the pan. I think he's actually going to have a little bit of staying power.
He's no Mr. Bloom.
Well,
yeah. We just last week talked about Punchline and how I feel Punchline is just Hannibal Lecter in a skirt and not that interesting. So
gonna go the way of Mr. Bloom.
I mean, I don't want to say that because, okay, first off, I think Mr. Bloom gets a bad rap. That story isn't bad. It just comes after 3 of the best Batman stories to come out since Neil Adams drew them. I mean, that New 52 run is ridiculous. And I've already shared my opinion on how good that run is, so we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for me, one of the things with just any kind of speculation is it's just so hard when you're basing it on first appearances because you never know. I mean, this Null story could end up running out great, and then they could pass it on to someone else like like they did with Cosmic Ghost Rider, and it could just be terrible. And that could just kill the character's momentum, and that's the end of it. I mean, you just don't. And at the same time, Punchline could get picked up by a different writer and become, the greatest thing ever. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in this industry. So speculating I like to see books spike short term. It's fun, it's that lotto aspect of collecting that we might see going away as we move towards OGN digital format. But yeah, it's Null, Punchline, all that stuff. Batman Who Laughs. What else is there that's been recent? Cosmic Ghost Rider, the Batwing.
Speaking in that vein, though, how much do you think? First of all, do you think, and how much do you think the group actually attributes or gives to speculation?
Ooh.
I know that's a loaded question, but I mean, you've got so many people that interact on this group, And I see what I think is a lot of people are, driving speculation where maybe it may not have taken off so much directly because of this group, and literally giving tons of people FOMO.
I think it's a balance. Yeah, when you talk about speculation, for example, somebody will throw up a book and say, "Hey, do you think this will increase in value?" Most of the comments are, "No, I don't," or you shouldn't speculate. Buy what you love what you buy. There's very little of driving people towards speculating on books. However, I will say that you can post something and people are going to go after it. For example, yesterday I shared Art Term's Detective 1027 cover and got a lot of reaction. "Oh my God, I'm calling my LCS. I'm going to get that ordered. I'm going to put in for it." They loved it. So when you see a really nice book, yes, I do truly believe that our group does have that power to drive sales. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, and on the flip side of what Lew is saying, you can actually predict where things are going to take off, because if you see from the background post after post after post about this one particular book, there's a huge demand and interest in it. So it's like, oh, this is going to be the hot book, because we just have the vantage point that we get to see that bottleneck of everybody posting. So it's funny. An interesting perspective.
So I'll give you a couple others too. This is where it's really nice to be in this group, because every once in a while you'll see a post, "Hey, how come we don't talk about independence?" Well, that's really not true. And I think that Seven to Eternity is a book that took off because it got a lot of attention in our group. And Saga is another one that got a ton of attention in our group. And I think we had an influence on both of those.
Well, let's not undersell how wonderful those series are, though. So
Absolutely.
let's not.
Yeah, I mean, Saga sells itself. I'll give you guys a lot of credit, but Fiona Staples is at the top of the profession as far as her art goes, and BKV is, he's a genius. So that was going to go no matter what, I think.
And I would agree with that, but maybe perhaps the secondary market is where we might have an effect on something like that. People looking for things that they never knew existed before, because there are a lot of people that would not look down the independent road regardless what the book is.
Oh, no, I've found a lot of books that I loved through your guys' page. Family Tree was one that I picked up that I've been really enjoying recently. Deadly Class I found through your guys' group. I mean, you guys are kind of like a second LCS, and without conventions, you guys are a saving grace, because it's a place where I can go and I can interact with other introverted comic nerds. And
well, that's also a very common thread that, you see like on a very regular basis, someone jumping on and saying, "Hey, I'm looking for something new to read. What do you recommend? I like these type of series." And you get just hundreds and hundreds of people answering, and you will see people recommending things that obviously you never heard of, and it drives you to go check it out. So definitely it is it's like your virtual comic shop with people making recommendations for you.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing that's great about your group is, so when Metal was coming out in 2018, 17, I was a late to the game. I didn't start picking it up till the Batman Who Laughs one shot came out. And I went back. I love that book. That's one of Snyder's best books as well, the Batman Who Laughs one shot. Definitely worth reading. But it drove me to go back and want to get the rest of Metal. Well, by that point, Teen Titans 12 and the Red Death had both already come out and were huge and almost impossible to get, for cover price, or they were impossible to get for cover price. And a member of the group, he saw me working on this project, really diligently to try and put it back together. And he sent me a free copy of Teen Titans 12 and the Red Death for no reason. Just then he saw me in this group and we talked a few times.
You know what? I'm guilty of that as well. I met a guy in a group who I became longtime Facebook friends with, who lives in Australia. And he had posted in the group something to the effect that it was his birthday coming up in a few days. That unfortunately, because of money problems, he's not going to be getting much. And he was kind of upset, and he kind of just vented in the group. Well, I saw that post this was years ago. I saw that post when I was in San Diego Comic-Con, and I knew which characters he liked and kind of like what era of books he was looking for. So I went and hit a bunch of bins, bought a bunch, got his address, and sent them to him for his birthday, and just said happy birthday. Not to toot my own horn, but it's like that's just a way of like-minded comic people to just connect and do cool things for each other.
Absolutely. And so, you know what the payoff to that story is that through your guys' group, I met a guy who had been stuck in the hospital for 6 months straight, and he wanted to read metal, and I had come across like 4 more copies of the Batman or of Teen Titans 12. And so I sent him one of my copies of Teen Titans 12 because someone else, so I paid that forward. And that actually happened like 2 or 3 more times where I sent books like that on to people that I met through the group that were having a hard time and struggling and just needed a good bounce. You know, I just wanted, so thank you very much, because your group, it's built relationships. I mean, it birthed this podcast. We would not be here without your group. So thank you to Lynn. Thank you to all you guys for what you're doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
it's valuable.
Your group is changing the world one comic nerd at a time.
Quite the responsibility.
Well, you know what they say, with great power, Ryan.
Absolutely.
There was another thing I wanted to bring up really quick, because this is something that comes up quite a lot in the group. And while it's not, wholly controversial in the age of great controversies that we're facing at the moment, but it's something that's always just bugged me. And I'm wondering if it bugs you guys as well, or if it's just me. But it is the battle between the CGC lovers and the CGC haters. It drives me up the wall, because there are the people that love CGC and will post about it, and then there are the people who jump in and automatically say, no, you're wrong, comics are meant to be read, you're doing it wrong. And it's the whole idea of each side trying to tell the other how to collect and how to enjoy comics, and nothing just burns me as quickly as that debate.
Yeah,
well, and the way I say it is like the only way you're doing it wrong is if you're not enjoying it. So just enjoy it.
Perfect. Or if you're the guy who goes in on Wednesday and buys every single copy of the new hot book off the shelf, that guy sucks too. Sorry.
Yeah, then you're a dick.
Oh, I put up with that on a regular basis. So
I just want to say there's nothing wrong with speculating. You just have to do it right. And part of doing it right is doing the legwork to get out in front of it so that you can order all the books you want before the cutoff, not go into a store and have to grab every shelf copy and try. Yeah. I mean, it puts everyone in a bad spot.
But there's a good way to do that too. Do it like Thanksgiving dinner. Allow everybody to get some and then go back for more.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've a number of times have had to stop people from doing that, because they show up on a Wednesday as soon as I open and literally will try to grab all the copies of a particular book. And I tell them, no, I'm sorry. I've got, several customers that are going to come on their lunch break or going to come after work who want to buy a copy, and they're not going to be there. It's not fair to them. You know?
What conversation's more uncomfortable, Eddie? That one or the put your mask on?
Oh, they're both equally, but I'll throw in a third because this happened just yesterday. There was a guy that I got pretty irate with because, he's a reader and he's done this before. And I let it go for a long time because I was like, who cares? He's not bothering anybody. But in the age of COVID, when you don't want people hanging in your store for long periods of time touching everything, It's inexcusable. He came in yesterday like he's done before, goes over to the wall of the new books, picks up a book or two, stands there in front of the wall so that obviously nobody else can go there if they're trying to keep distance, reads them all, and then puts them back, and then proceeds to walk out. And I stopped him on the way out, and I told him, at a time where we are struggling to stay alive because there's very few people out on the streets, there's very little foot traffic, and not all our customers have returned because of, issues of being outside, that's a really crappy thing to do, to just come in, read it for free, and leave. And I told him that if he's going to do that, he needs to go to the library and not here. And that is the most irate. The other two I can excuse because I can call it out, correct it right away. But that guy just really, that burns me.
I admire what you do as an LCS, Eddie. My LCS is similar. She will, I can shoot her an email. She'll put stuff aside for me. She looks out for things that I want. But most importantly, when a new hot book comes out, she will limit it to 1 or 2. But she also puts a few aside. So if I forgot to let her know that, say, I wanted a Batman 100 that's coming up, and I missed the date, she might have a couple just sitting there for her good customers, and she takes care of us.
Yeah,
so it's pretty
and
awesome.
I'll do exactly the same because I know that I might not get a call or an email or a message from somebody who wants a hot book, who is a regular that comes every week. I might not hear from them, but I'll automatically think, oh, I know they get this book. I don't want them to miss out. I'll do the same thing. Like with Batman 89 was a good example. Put a couple aside because I know they're going to come in on a Thursday because they normally, don't come in on Wednesday, and they're going to ask for it and it won't be there, but I'll be able to pull one from behind the counter and say, no, I got you covered.
Yeah, Batman 89 was an interesting one because people had to drop the big reveal. And one of our rules is no spoilers. And we don't allow spoilers for 14 days to 28 days, depending on the grade of the spoiler. And that one was a difficult one. We as admins see when they drop a spoiler. So that one was pretty much wrecked for me from the start. But, that's what we sign up for.
Yeah, in the age of the internet, sometimes that is just, it's unavoidable. You're going to see it somewhere.
I just want to know what it's like to see an unspoiled movie. That'd be awesome.
I remember the days of standing in line to go see Empire Strikes Back and walking out at the end and going, oh my God! But that doesn't happen anymore at all.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, it's funny because my wife will be watching TV shows. She's a big reality show junkie. And she can't just watch it unfold week to week. Normally, she will go online and look up and see what happened at the end. And I'm thinking, well, if you already know what happens, why are you watching it? But she still watches it all the way through.
Okay, so let me take this opportunity to give a shout out to the rest of our admin team, and I do stress the word team. As Duane mentioned, Jennifer Doudney has been around since before the two of us. She is the senior member of the admin team. And then we also have Jeffrey Dauberpool and Scott Tennant. And our most recent ad was Steve Pay, who was actually from across the pond. He's in England, which makes for a real nice time differential and keeps things running a little bit smoother.
All right, guys. Well, we're getting to where we're going to wind things down. I want to go out on a positive note. Why don't you guys tell me what the best part of being an admin for this group is? What's the really positive story or experience that will stick with you and that you will take away from this?
Well, I'll start it out because my favorite part about this is actually being exposed to so many different comic books and storylines. Besides the whole family mentality of the group, I would not be reading some of the best comic books out there without this group because it exposed me to Image. The Image world is amazing, and without this group, I would never experience it. So I'm ever grateful for that.
For me, it's also the wealth of knowledge, the books that I learn about, the books that I never knew existed. I've got a list now of probably 70 back issues that I'm on the hunt for, and that's a lot of fun because the hunt is a lot of fun. But without question, as they mentioned, the relationships, the Love Annas, the Rick Whitelocks of the group, folks like that just make everything worth it. That are friends outside of the group. We follow things that they talk about in regular life as well.
Thank you for joining us, guys. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, we already mentioned it's called Comic Book Collecting. We have over 163,000 members, but we'd love to have more.
All right, Eddie, anything you want to say?
I definitely want to thank the three of you for coming on and talking about the group. I've been a member of it for quite a while, and I love it. I love the people that I interact with there and the people that I've become longtime friends with. So I want to say thank you to three of you, not only for coming on today, but for all the work that you do in the group itself. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
That's going to do it for us this week. Join us again next week when we bring you more tales from the comic shop. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
This show is part of the Geek Nerd Network. Find more shows like it at geeknerdnetwork.com. This is Janet.
What is fandom?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Fandom is your obsession with TV, movies, comics, and books.
Fandom is debating whether or not Goku or Superman would win in a fight. Clearly, it's Batman.
Fandom is about liking things. Join us weekly on Fandom as we talk about all of that and more. Subscribe at fandompodcast.com.